General Medicaid warning. The views expressed in 5-ish minute lore, the lore delivered in rants, are sanctioned by their scholar Progenium as excess rageous. Prolonged exposure can result in loss of IQ, high blood pressure, random outbursts, and blunt force trauma to the skull, resulting in unconsciousness. Please consult your local physician for more information.
Imagine, if you will, you're an orc. Knock it off. You're a huge green slab of muscle and stupidity, driven completely by the need to find new and interesting people and hit them over the head with a piece of metal. One day you woke up and realized that this piece of metal that you found and used to hit people on the head could be used for something other than spontaneous facial reconstruction. Yay! Amazing! You immediately slap a garrote. With this newfound wealth of knowledge, you take 2 pieces of metal and beat them together, and then you paint some teeth on it, throw some bolts in a box, and then start shaking it up and it starts shooting things. Congratulations! You just made your first shooter! Obligatory grot slap! Since you're not your average orc anymore, you decide to take your talents to a nearby garage where you meet a bigger orc. Hey, it's your local war boss! A bigger, dumber slab of muscle and fungus who takes one look at you, takes a swig from a drum of motor oil, and then punches you in the face with the force of 1,000 exploding suns. It leaves you with a limp, a stutter, and allergic reactions to band-aids for some reason we haven't quite figured out yet. I swear to God, some of these things about the work just defy explanation. Congratulations, you're a mech now, and you're in the service of Big Mech Old Guzzla. Look at you go, you slab of stupidity and insanity. Congratulations on your new promotion. To celebrate, you go outside and beat a smaller orc to death with a flip-flop. Then you slap a grot. You're a proud member of Big Mech Old Guzzla's crew, and while you continue to want to build while you wanted to continue building shooters, Big Mech Old Guzzla had different plans, and he convinced you of those plans via blunt force trauma to the head. Old Guzzla believed death dreads were the way of the future. While at first you couldn't figure out how to put together a death dread, Big Mech Old Guzzla was right there for you, there to help you out by beating you in the skull with a wrench until you figured it out.
You're a wizard, Harry.
Good guy, that Old Guzzla. Slap a grunt. There's just one thing though. Normally when you see a grot or a Gretchen or anything smaller than you go out of your way to, slap it around or punch it in the face or just kick it in the ass while it's down. That's just the way of things. But for some reason, Big Mech Old Guzzla has this one Gretchen that he won't let anybody touch.
What the hell is even that?
He doesn't have a problem beating orcs to death with anything he can bring to hand, but for some reason this Gretchen is just special. It feels kind of unorky, I mean, it's weird. The Gretchen hasn't been punched in 24 hours, so you're gonna go over there and uppercut it. But Old Guzzla sees what you're about to do, and he folds you like an omelet. You wake up with 2 teeth, and you thank Old Guzzla for explaining the situation to you so succinctly. You start noticing this Gretchen keeps on whispering to Old Guzzla. And one day you just work up the courage to go over there and ask him what the Gretchen is saying, only for Old Guzzla to inform you it wasn't your business by using your body to beat a bent death dread leg back into place. When you wake up from your trauma-induced coma, you find out that you're on some Humie world with big cities and lots of loot. That's awesome! You also figure out you can't feel the right side of your body, so you throw yourself in front of the orc battle wagon to correct the issue. And what do you know? It works. Slap a grot. You run to find Big Mech Old Guzzla to ask him what to do. Then he yells and Sparta kicks you into the cockpit of a death dread. Congratulations, now you're a pilot. But you don't know how to pilot. Oh, here comes Big Mech Old Guzzla. He's gonna explain it to you. After your beating, you successfully pilot the death dread out of the garage, making sure to stomp on any grot or Gretchen that didn't move out of the way fast enough. Use the death dread to slap a grot. Oh yeah, it's time for some fighting, it's time for some looting. You begin screaming into a harmonica that is somehow, some way hardwired with a speaker that sits right next to your ear. And even though it's painful, you just keep screaming until your eardrum ruptures. There you go, now it just feels fuzzy. Suddenly, your entire mech just loses power. By Gork, what's happening? You jump out of your death dread, yell at a Gretchen, point out what's wrong, and when it doesn't automatically get it, you take its face and shove it repeatedly into the gearbox. Stupid Gretchen. Grot! Come to think of it, every single mech is just kind of like not moving. All the death dreads are just stuck. stopped. Why's that? Curious! I know one guy that would know. Old Guzzla. You sprint off to find old Guzzla. Only really you kind of like gallop, you know. Because the last time old Guzzla hit you with that wrench he carries, you kind of forgot the whole ability to run thing. On your way to see old Guzzla, you vent your frustrations by beating an orc to death for existing. You come to where you left old Guzzla in the garage and he's gone. Where is Big Mech Old Guzzla? Oh look, there's snacks! You gleefully begin chowing down on these fist-sized chunks of just delicious meat that is laying everywhere. Suddenly you notice Big Mech Old Guzzla's pet Gretchen just standing a short distance. Short. Yeah, he's over there. Well, you know, if Big Mech Old Guzzla's are here, and it is, you might as well get some entertainment in, you know. Why is it grinning at you?
Hello, motherfucker.
Let's sum it up. Sometimes the Inquisition doesn't do something absolutely insane.
Lies! Lies!
Sometimes the Inquisition is going to see a problem beginning to develop and opt for something other than absolute genocide. In the early 38th millennium, an Inquisitor saw just this type of problem. And although he was concerned, he was just concerned enough to alert just the right people for it. Now granted, it's not that hard to look down at a planet and realize a massive amount of orcs are just getting together on it. It's really not that hard, but congratulations to him for not just blowing the planet in half or dropping about 40 virus bombs. You know, congratulations for that, at least. Good job. You're not insane. Yet, before too long had gone by, the High Lords decided, you know, maybe another brutal war with the Greenskins isn't something we want to get involved in right now. So they picked up the phone and dialed in for murder and got hold of a Grandmaster Assassin. While they were on the phone talking to this Grandmaster, they told this Master of the Officio a special recipe that they were trying to put together, and they needed his help to get the proper ingredients. The Officio took one look at the situation and decided to send a single Callidus assassin, a woman by the name of Mitzilia.
I'm kind of retarded.
Mitzilia Scaravelli. They sent her out into the wider Imperium, and she promptly began collecting all the important recipes for this very special dish of the High Lords. Upon arriving on the planet where the orcs were, she immediately infiltrated the entire orc wall by means of impersonating a Gretchen. Eventually, after a period of time that we can only really guess at, she wound up in the direct service of the war boss himself, Big Mech Old Guzzla. Now, I can't really tell you why this orc war boss would decide to take his entire wall and drop it onto a hive planet that knew he was coming, that was defended by a Space Marine chapter, but I can guess it has something to do with a little Gretchen whispering sweet nothings in his ear.
Think of all the places this can go.
What I can tell you is that right after Old Guzzla launched his offensive, it came to a crashing halt. And the High Lords got a DoorDash from the Officio, and they were very, very pleased with the results of that. After all, it was a delicious dish. Big Mech meatballs with a heaping helping of fried mushrooms and a slight of slap grot. Today, we're going to be talking about the Callidus Assassins of the Imperium, the almost all-female clade that was told they'd never fit in and they took it personal. They are the clade responsible for the least amount of direct kills, but hold no illusions, they are the grand champion of deaths caused. Callidus Assassins don't just infiltrate. Here we go again, trying to struggle with proper verbiage. The best way to really tell you what the Callidus do is they become. A Callidus Assassin is the unseen blade of the Imperium, and they are hidden in plain sight. If the story that I just got done telling you doesn't really illustrate the point, let me drive it home with the subtlety of a sledgehammer to the kneecap. A Callidus assassin can and will take the place of anyone you know in any manner of relationship, no matter how close and intimate. And you will never know something is wrong until your girlfriend is missing and grandma pulls a Glock. Let me put it another way. If the Callidus Temple and the Alpha Legion put on a Broadway show, the Alpha Legion will be playing the part of a tree. Compared to the Callidus, the Alpha Legion is nothing more than a bunch of talentless hacks. A Callidus assassin is so good at the arts of subtle observation, direct observation, infiltration, deceit, and acting that they could take the place of anyone, anywhere, at any time, and no one would notice. They will replace general. They will replace trusted aides, servants, lovers. Now, I'm not saying your girlfriend or boyfriend is a Callidus assassin. I'm not saying your mom or dad isn't a Callidus assassin. But you remember that one post you made about the Tau being awesome?
We're Costco, guys. Let's go. In Tau Optimum Faction. What does that even mean? I know it says Tau, but I know it's in a foreign language, so I don't automatically want to throw them in a wood chipper. So the question is, should I powerbomb galaxy-wide in a wood chipper? Galaxy-wide?
Yeah, enjoy the head trip, you heretic. In fact, the Callidus is so adept at what they do, they'll even take the place of the target they were sent to take down in the first place, destroying their organization from within so totally it can never be put back together again. And then they just disappear. This makes the Callidus dangerous in a whole different kind of way, because not only can they kill the leader and the creator of the movement, they can wipe out the movement itself. The very idea behind it. Now, here's the real question. What type of job is gonna call for a Callidus assassin? Transitional grot slap. While assassin clades are going to be sent to handle threats that have already emerged, the Callidus assassins are different because they will often be sent to places where the conditions for the threat emerging are all there. You know, when we're just at tropical storm stupidity and we haven't gone all the way to hurricane heresy. Let's just say you're an inquisitor and you got your eye on a noble that's starting to have some radical ideas. You know, like respecting the commoner's opinions, or thinking that the planet is being treated by the local governance kind of, you know, wastefully. Now you could just walk in there, flash your badge, then start redrawing maps, busting caps, or you could just call in to your local Grandmaster Assassin and tell him someone bears watching. Normally, the Callidus Assassin gets called in by the Ordo Hereticus, who deals with internal threats, just specifically for this reason. It could turn out that the local noble in question thinks the governor is a piece of crap and thinks that he himself could serve the Emperor better. Considering planetary governors like Hermann von Straub exist, a walking walrus of wasted flesh about as intelligent as a can of Spam.
Cause I'm a shoo-in for Hate of the Year.
Hell, that's not a bad thing at all. Then, of course, you have the other way that this could go, in which case the Callidus is gonna have some house cleaning. The stain of heresy in a noble's house cleans up rather well with the spray of their bloods and brains across the wall. It's like OxyClean, only a lot more violent, but with the way the Callidus can impersonate people.
Hi, Billy Mays here with an amazing new product.
Extensively premeditated murder. Now you're hearing all this, and you might be thinking, how in the world could the Callidus do this? I mean, I've literally said the Callidus could replace people in your close friends and family group, and you know, you wouldn't be able to tell. That takes a lot more than watching Nana at a bingo hall. Well, the process of putting a Callidus together starts really early. When they start looking for a new recruit, they look for the kind of kid that can sell you a waterproof tea bag. You know, the real manipulative ones. We're not talking your standard lying kid here. We're talking about a gaslighter so profound they can convince you that wearing clothes sideways is a fashion statement. Once again, kids are special. But we all know that kid.
Mommy in a bit of a hurry, was she?
Step out of the car, madam! Step out of the vehicle now!
Yeah. The Imperium doesn't have time for this bullshit, but it does have a use for it. Your new little crotch goblin is gonna go through one of the most brutal training regimens possible. It's gonna be focused on improvisation acting, mimicry, disguises, active listening and active observation. This goes past simply watching. Let me go a little bit further because there's a matter of scaling to be discussed here. Yay. The training here goes deep. Horrifically deep. Sickeningly deep. You have to understand something, that the Callidus is going to be sent into situations where they're not just undercover, they're under the floorboards, okay? Sometimes they're not even going to be in human territory. When the Callidus goes out to do a mission, they're most likely, in 99.9% of cases, going to a place with different languages, subdialects, accents, and of course traditions. If this doesn't seem that out of pocket for you, I'm going to give you a scenario. And brace yourself, because you really need to understand how ridiculous this is. Let's say you have to infiltrate a world where the nobles are expected of turning heretical. This particular world has a dialect that includes body language, and in some cases the body language that you use is more important than what's coming out of your mouth. A simple nod of the head during speech can be taken 10 different ways depending on the inflection of the voice and where the conversation was heading prior, and who you're speaking to. A flick of the pointer finger can mean 6. There's also a big deal about clothing and presentation. In particular, there's a brooch that's worn on the right breast pocket. This brooch is used to demonstrate relationship status. There is a formal and informal speech that is used based completely on familiarity and authority, and there are specific ways in which you are expected to sit, stand, eat, and drink in the presence of different people in the social hierarchy. The way you can determine where somebody stands on the social hierarchy is based on how other people react to them, speak to them, gesture to them, and even look at them. And these norms are so heavily ingrained into the society that even a slight social faux pas can draw immediate attention. Imagine being at a place where the simplest gesture or glance can immediately single you out as somebody that just simply does not belong there.
How do you do, fellow kids?
There are specific ways to eat, drink, enter a room, to greet people and respond to a greeting. And there are intensely rigid courtship rituals that must be adhered to at all times. And every single one of them varies greatly in intensity based on the familiarity of the couple. The wrong ritual can be seen as deliberately insulting, or it can be seen as borderline assault. The political stance of the planet is strict adherence to the will of the masses, with groups of friends making entire decisions based off voting that is counted within seconds via obvious hand gestures. The positions of power are often fluid based on the general trust and well-being of the group, with only a few positions actually being lifelong. The way this works is kind of as follows. Let me give you a scenario within a scenario. Inception. Slap a grot. Let's use the garage example. A group of auto mechanics decides on which of 3 vehicles to fix. They do this by holding a vote that is counted instantaneously because each one of the choices had its own obvious gesture assigned to it. When the vehicle is brought in, they have to decide on a leader, and considering it's an AC problem, it comes as no surprise that all of them choose the AC guy, and they do it by a vote again, with its own hand gestures that are already predetermined based off societal norms. Surprise, surprise, the AC guy's in charge! The second the vote is counted, the social hierarchy is set, and everybody's speech, movement, gestures, all of it changes instantaneously. They do this to respect the AC guy's newfound position as the leader. The second the job is finished, the AC guy does this ritual stand where he surrenders the thing by doing some sort of ceremonial pose or ritual, whatever this is. He does this as per tradition to surrender his power. All social norms reset accordingly. Now, with all that being said, take yourself in this situation, go into a local diner, and try to order eggs from the cute waitress without getting married, arrested, assaulted, or, volunteering to have your organs harvested. In short, this shit ain't easy. Most of us can tell if somebody's from a different city, even if they're in the same geographic location. A Callidus can do this while on a world on the other side of the galaxy. In addition to this observation and improvisation training, they're also going to become the Imperium's equivalent of every Kung Fu movie's protagonist ever, in the history of ever. It's not always a promise in the Callidus' line of work that when somebody needs to catch a bullet, they're going to have a gun that can fling one that way. Because of this, the Callidus Temple trains their students in their own specialized form of martial arts that combines gymnastics with parkour. This martial Scholar's training has a few major benefits besides the obvious. 1, the potential Callidus assassin becomes intensely focused and disciplined. 2, they're going to develop an absolute mastery of their body. They are able to fight so far above their weight class, it's comical. 3rd, they're going to develop a high tolerance towards pain and discomfort, as well as a calm detachment from the sensation. And believe me, that's going to come into play. Now let's talk about drugs.
Can you say cocaína?
I don't know who came up with the drug polymorphine, and I don't know why they did it initially, but I got a pretty good feeling it was done by one of the descendants of my exes. You know, the ones with the genetic predisposition towards stalking. Polymorphine is one hell of a concoction, and anyone caught with it that's not supposed to have it better have more excuses than a pregnant nun. To call polymorphine a controlled substance is like saying P. Diddy had a little bit of baby oil. But you don't have to worry about a sudden spike in usage or anything like that, or somebody trying to produce it themselves, because anybody using polymorphine is gonna have a day that's just simply put horrific.
Everybody do the Michigan ride.
Polymorphine on being injected tears apart the body to be reforged. Remember that high tolerance for pain and discipline that I talked about earlier? This is where it comes into play. On a list of things that suck to go through, having your skeletal system lose all cohesion, while at the same time your entire nervous system gets rewired, with your skin turning to Play-Doh, while your organs are doing their own version of a choose-your-own-adventure story. I mean, seriously, the level of pain you're talking about here is pretty damned high. Using this stuff isn't gonna give you a little ouchie. It's not gonna be like a scrape or a stubbed toe. This is gonna feel like being tossed into a swimming pool filled to the brim with razor blades, alcohol, lemon juice, and some electric eels with some pepper spray kicked in, while you're wearing a scuba mask filled with tear gas and good old-fashioned black pepper and pepper spray. Add on to that, you're also getting sat on by Herman von Straub, while Gazgul Mac Uruk Raka kicks you repeatedly in the balls. It's gonna suck. It's gonna flat out suck. This is nothing more or less than flesh crafting, and it's what the Drukari do for fun. You know, just to be dicks. 'Cause edgy. Now, on hearing this, you might be wondering, who the hell would use any of this stuff? Well, remember how a few minutes ago you were asking how the Callidus would be able to replace your mother and you wouldn't be able to tell? Well, this is how. While under the influence of polymorphine, a Callidus can actually warp their body, shifting skin tones, turning muscle to fat, increasing height, weight, muscle tone, even hair length and color, until they're the perfect match for the person that they're going to be impersonating. They will mimic someone down to the dimple, down to birthmarks and scars. Not only that, polymorphine allows you to do some really weird stuff. Yes, I did mean weirder than what I just talked about. They can create pockets inside of their own bodies. They can use it to hide weapons, poisons, monitoring equipment, quite literally anything they need, and at almost any temperature too. A trained Callidus assassin could morph their body to be a perfect simulacrum of Megan the Stallion, and make a pocket that is designed to remain at 38 degrees Fahrenheit to store a micro-refrigeration unit and a 6-pack of beer in her left ass cheek. As long as the Callidus has enough relative biomass to pull off the imitation, they can actually do it. Now granted, sometimes the Callidus isn't gonna have the biomass to replicate everything about a species, or just some species in general. Orcs. Eldar. If you're gonna portray an orc and you're a 4'8", 125-pound woman, it doesn't matter how insane your abs are. You simply don't have 300 pounds of muscle to go around to, you know, look passable. But modern problems require modern solutions. Implants. The Callidus can go under the knife to get pockets of flex cartilage, synth skin, and other types of additions to their body that will only activate under the direct influence of polymorphine. Now, this does have a drawback. It typecasts the Callidus to a specific species. Once you've imitated an orc using this stuff, you can't portray any other species. Period. It pretty much means you become the Adam Sandler of the Callidus world, restricted to one type of role that gets old remarkably fast.
Mama, I got the football! I got it!
Over millennia of training assassins, the Callidus Clade realized that the female body and psyche are better prepared for these changes, as well as the stresses and strain of polymorphine itself. And apparently they just make better social comedians overall. Because of this, about 99% of the time, regardless of who the Callidus is impersonating, the Callidus themselves is going to be female. A male Callidus is going to have a drastically harder time, even to do the most basic of transformations, much less anything complex. Now, this isn't to say that a male can't be a Callidus. I mean, technically they can, There's nothing saying they can't. But they'd have to be so special that you can pretty much guarantee any Callidus being written about in a book is going to be a self-insert character. Maybe they'll have a problem controlling their emotions. And maybe they just need to embrace their inner boy boss, you know, before they can achieve their full potential and be a flawless, almighty, godlike figure. Of course, their personality is flawless, so everybody loves and respects them upon first meeting them. Oh, of course, they wouldn't be trained by the assassin arm. Oh no, why would we want that? They just found some polymorphine laying in a gutter somewhere. After they embrace their inner damn beauty, they're gonna wind up being able to use polymorphine better than anybody we've ever seen before in canon. Hey, maybe they'll be able to replicate every ability and power of the person they're replicating. Hell, at the end of the day, they could just steal the identity of the most important person in the Imperium. Just think about it. Imagine what would happen if one of these magical, wondrous people wound up taking over the personality of the Emperor. I mean, they get his immortality, his intelligence, his psychic gifts, and then they lead the Imperium into a new golden age. I mean, that's going to be absolutely moronic to anybody that has at least a base understanding of the lore and any respect for the canon whatsoever. I mean, it's just seriously going to legitimately piss off anybody that sees this. Who would do something like that? Putting a self-insert character who is practically godlike and never has to do anything to earn the abilities they got is just flat out stupid. We've never seen anything like that before now, have we?
Rey Skywalker.
Now you've got a perfect spy who is trained to blend into a society so completely they attract no attention, who can assume the identity of somebody that lives on the planet and copy all of their mannerisms, all their personality quirks and traits. Now, if I properly painted this picture for you, being a Callidus assassin is about as, easy as training a whale to do ballet. Guess what? This has just been the easy part. This is just the setup. A Callidus on mission to infiltrate a secret organization is not just going to wind up walking up to one of the people in said organization asking to join. Some rando that no one knows showing up in the middle of nowhere asking to join the secret club.
I'm Goku. I'm insane. From Earth.
No, the Callidus is going to have to replace someone. The Callidus is not just going to have to learn how this person in particular acts, but everything about them. And by everything, I mean everything. I mean literally everything. Work habits, relationships, mannerisms, relationships, secret handshakes, relationships, any allergies, relationships, meanings behind items on their person and in their household, relationships, literally anything else you could think of. And oh, by the way, did I mention relationships? The reason I snuck relationships in there is because it's just that important. This is where it gets deep. So let's just say you're a Callidus and you're trying to infiltrate a noble's household who might be turning heretical, and in the nature of such things, they've locked the place down tight. Well, what to do? Well, you've been noticing that there's this really quiet guy who, as soon as he gets off guard duty, just clocks out and goes straight home. And he lives alone. You'll replace him. Sounds easy, right? Some loner who doesn't talk much? This is gonna be a cakewalk, right? Okay then, does he have a thing for somebody in the household? Does he have a bully? Does he have somebody that acts like a bully but is actually good-natured teasing? Is he secretly piping down the noble's daughter who just happens to have some very specific kinks?
If you get it, you get it. If you don't, you don't. If you know, you know.
How often does he call his mom? Well, you gotta find out all that now, don't you? Take a dose of polymorphine and slap a grunt. Not only is the Callidus going to have a wide array of monitoring equipment, they are going to be able to use polymorphine to observe their mark closely. Using the drug, they're going to be able to morph their body into a variety of forms to better help them learn about their target. A trained Callidus can change their form to be able to fit inside of air ducts, fit inside lockers, hide under floorboards, you name it. Yes, Ceiling Cat is watching you, and if you see it taking notes, it's a Callidus. The assassin is going to do this until they gathered enough information to be absolutely certain that they can replace the person in question. Now all that's left to do is dispose of the body. And in the modern Imperium, there are a lot of ways of getting that done. Okay, so you've replaced the guard. You're observing the inner structure as best you can while giving the noble's daughter a good time and calling the person's mother that you just killed at least 2 times a week. Good for you. The entire time you're in this position, you're already scouting out your next mark. The next person in the daisy chain to get you to where you want to be, next to your target. After a bit of observation, you decided you're going to replace the watch captain, closer to the nobles, but now you've got to ask yourself the same questions that you did before, plus some more. The most notable of these questions is, how are you going to have the young guard go away to arouse no suspicion? It's a really good question once you think about it. How is this guard going to just completely vanish without nobody asking a question as to why? Well, how about dear old Dad Noble finding out that the daughter he's paying this guy to protect has been doing quite a bit more than protecting? Well, now there's a lot of family drama, yay! And it's the perfect reason for the guard to run like absolute hell. Now rinse and repeat this process as many times as you need to. Once, twice, 20, 50 times. All so you can get up close and personal with a noble lord that might be turning heretical. Do you realize how many things you'd have to juggle in your head to keep everything straight here? How many interpersonal relationships, quirks, habits, work habits? Just the sheer amount of preferences alone for what you would eat in the morning. I can't even keep up with Twitter. A Callidus infiltration can take quite literally years to pull off, decades even. But the benefits to an embedded Callidus inside of an organization vastly outweighs the cost of getting there. After all the time spent infiltrating society, infiltrating the organization, rising in the ranks by means of murder, hello Black Templars, finally the Callidus will be able to do their job. Now, what kind of job is the Callidus going to do? Depending on the situation, it could just be to observe and report. Say the Callidus went to investigate, got all the way in, just to find out what appeared sinister was not sinister in the slightest. What if the noble wasn't hoarding materials and munitions because they were going to rebel? What if they were holding them just in case the planet needed defending? What if they knew something that everybody else had just conveniently ignored? What if they were the really big family type and were going to raise the regiment of Imperial Guard to honor their great-great-great-great-great-great-grandmother? Hell, what if they just wanted to score some brownie points for the local administratum by turning over an entire army's worth of guns, tanks, and equipment? Here's an even better one, and this happens more often than you'd think. What if the noble was collecting information on other nobles to turn over to the Inquisition once they had a smoking gun? Say the noble became aware of a group of other nobles that was conspiring with a local Xenos race. They don't have any hard evidence yet. They're trying to collect it. You don't just kill someone for that. Then, of course, you have the other end of the spectrum. Let's say yon old noble lord was into these massive sex parties with a side of Slaneshi cultism and a lot of Johnson & Johnson. It is 2 seconds from getting out of hand. Well, killing the noble takes care of that problem, but what about everything else? What about the cult? Wouldn't it be a better idea to see how far this corruption goes? How about the noble collecting weapons and munitions with a plan to revolt? Well, who else is working with him? Where's he getting all this stuff from? Callidus assassins have a huge amount of leeway about how they will do their job. You want a ridiculous example? Vigmaspawn Sprott was a planetary governor who had the balls to beef with the Imperium and decided to send them a strongly worded message telling them what he would and would not do. Instead of bringing the pimp hand of the Imperium to smack him down, the High Lords of Terra decided for a different kind of approach. Since most planetary governors that use this kind of language are attempting to self-expire by means of Imperial lasgun, they decided to do a wellness check on him and called the officio to send a Callidus. Because he was either really serious or really stupid. When the Callidus finally infiltrated the noble's household, she had a wide variety of options available to her. Of course, she could just kill the governor, that's easy enough, but you know, he's really good at his job. Also, he has his fingertips on the pulse of the planet. He's really popular with the locals. So, you know, outright killing him, might get somebody incompetent in his place. You pissed off the entire world. There might be more problems to come from that than anything good. So, what now? As the Callidus watched, she noticed that Thymus had a absolute infatuation with his infant son. He doted on this child and kept him guarded day and night. Massive expenditures were made to keep this baby safe. Well, now we might have a solution now, don't we? After tripping balls off polymorphine, the Callidus assassin took the place of the nanny, and when she was alone with the kid, she sedated him, took another dose of polymorphine, and quite literally swallowed the kid whole, like a snake. And then she just clocked out and walked out. You know, quiet quitting, you know? She's out. A few days later, the governor, who was about to fill up a lake with his tears and had bags under his eyes you could carry groceries in, got an email in his inbox letting him know the Imperium had his kid. Guess who toned down the rhetoric real quick? Well, now everybody's happy. Except Thymus, but then again, he should have kept his damn mouth shut, am I right? This Callidus assassin would go down in history and fable and legend as the throat goat.
Huck to and spit on that thing.
I mean, Mother Gullet. I mean, it fits, right? She quite literally swallowed the guy's kid. How about a more nuanced example? Uvar, a Callidus assassin, was sent to the siege of Tulk. This siege had been going on for over 50 years. Let me just elaborate on a point. Planetary governors can seem frustrating, but there is a reason for that. One of the bad things about being a planetary governor is everybody on the planet that is trying to get somewhere is either trying to do one of two things: kill you or kiss your ass. Too much of the former and you wind up with a case of backstab syndrome, and well, guess what? You're not the planetary governor anymore, aren't you? Too much of the latter, and you're surrounded by a literal legion of suck-ups and sycophants who are all brutally fighting every single morning to be the first in line to shove their tongue up your ass crack. And they will be so eager to fluff your ego, they will tell you quite literally anything that you want to hear until you're simply drowning in the Kool-Aid. This is why some planetary governors get the serious case of the stupid and rebel. Because when you're constantly told that you're the wisest, and you're all so strong, and you're such an amazing leader, and you can definitely beat Mike Tyson and a grizzly bear in a fist fight 2v1, eventually you start thinking, well, hey, my shit doesn't stick now, does it? That's how you wind up in a 50-year-long siege as a planetary governor, saved only by the fact you were protected by one of the most powerful shields to exist. It was the only thing keeping the Imperium from getting you the middle finger that you so deserved. Eventually, the Callidus had infiltrated the infrastructure far enough to where she could make a critical decision. Now, you might expect the assassin would have gone after the governor themselves, but you'd be wrong. Instead, they decided to interrupt the power supply to the generators for the shields themselves. The planetary governor was in the middle of his morning tongue bath from his abject worshippers when suddenly a single squad of Blood Angels First Company Terminators showed up.
Now, I tell you what, I like you and I want you. Now, we can do this the easy way or we can do it the hard way. The choice is yours.
Now, I'm not exactly sure if the planetary governor's well-polished and pampered ass could handle a Terminator power fist being shoved up it, but I'm pretty damn sure the Blood Angels gave it the good old Astartes try. Hey, Warpugs, if you're liking this video, just please leave a like and a comment down below. It does help me with the algorithm, and subscribe if you haven't already. If you like this shirt, just check out the links in the description below for my merch shop. Join the channel as a Patreon or a member for early access. Let's get back into it. While the martial arts abilities, unreal training regimen, and addiction to appearance-enhancing drugs are more than good enough, the Callidus have an array of equipment that would be considered wildly heretical if it was in anybody's hands but theirs. Callidus weaponry is made for up-close, personal, quick, and effective kills. First up, let's talk about the Neural Shredder. Looks like a gun, is not a gun. The Neural Shredder is a bubble gun that instead of firing bubbles, it fires waves of electromagnetic energy. What does it do? I'm glad you asked. It scrambles your brain, bowls your noodle, overloading your brain and all of its nerve receptors, leaving you absolutely brain dead. So basically it's Twitter weaponized. Go figure, it's based off an Eldar weapon. There's no armor that protects against it, and once it hits you, you quite literally have brain rot. Skibbity Alpha Ohio Rizzler. Got among us. A Callidus can point this through a wall, fire through it, hit her target, and nobody will know why Jimmy the Slaneshi orgy leader suddenly started drooling out of the side of his mouth before he started having a seizure. The only real weakness of the weapon is it doesn't work on non-organic targets, because, well, no brain. I wonder if it would have killed Hermann von Straub. Then you have a weapon that's way past heresy in anyone else's hands. Now, having a piece of Xenos tech, say a toaster from the Tau, is more than enough to get you killed by the Inquisition and your fellow citizens in most cases. Having a Xenos weapon? Now that's flat out heresy. The Callidus doesn't care about your little hang-ups about using using Xenos weaponry. Because you see, the signature weapon of the Callidus, the one you've seen on every piece of artwork so far, they yanked that off the body of one of the Necron's dead gods.
What the heck?
Yeah, ain't that a bitch? The Catan phase weapon is exactly what the name implies. Armor does approximately dick against a weapon that doesn't even acknowledge the fact that the armor exists. It often takes the appearance of a weapon called the punch dagger, but it can vary depending on the Callidus' individual fighting style. This is gonna kill everything from a soft body to a space marine, from an orc war boss to a Tyranid lictor. But if you're gonna try to stab somebody with it, you better hope they're not a Catan themselves, because they're gonna thank you for the delivery, and you're gonna be wondering what in the world's about to happen to you. And yes, this has happened. The Callidus who did this didn't know the person they were about to try to stab was actually a Catan named the Deceiver. And while you could give the Callidus hell for not acknowledging the fact they were about to stab something entirely inhuman, remember it's a godlike figure called the Deceiver. That Callidus must have had the Pikachu face of all Pikachu faces, and hey, they have Polymorphine, so they can actually make the Pikachu face. And of course, because they're Imperial Assassins, they're gonna have their own BDSM harnesses. It's called the Sensen Body Glove, and most of what is in it has already been covered in the Vindicar video. The same kind of things that I was talking about before apply now. It helps them hide from most passive sensors, helps them blend into background, everything like that. But the main difference between the Callidus' variant and the Vindicar variant is the Callidus one has accessories. The Callidus Assassin is gonna have a ton of pockets in their Sensen Body Glove, and it's gonna be packing a lot of things they can use on mission. Monitoring equipment, polymorphine, and those little nifty needles they like to take and punch through somebody's eye socket. They're poison, by the way, and it's not just regular poison either. This stuff will drop a fully grown Ogren in seconds. For the final bit of gear we're going to talk about, we've got to talk about the death card. Oh my god, Emperor. Every once in a while, a Callidus is going to execute a target and wants everybody to know what their O face looks like. And the way they do this is by carrying around this little piece of griefing equipment. They will leave this card with the body of their victim, usually lodged between the teeth or between the fingers. When someone finds the body and grabs hold of the card, they're greeted to the lovely sound of somebody finding out what it feels like to chew 5 gum, as well as a picture of their face right when the flavor kicked right in. This will play on a loop continuously for a very, very long time. And no, you can't shut it off. To be absolutely blunt, the death card is the most 40K hallmark moment you can possibly imagine. All of the Callidus' gear and weaponry is meant for up-close, in-your-face murder. If the Callidus actually decides they need to use their gear, that's another matter entirely. The Callidus doesn't need to be the one to make the kill to do their job. Say a Callidus has infiltrated a heretical army and has worked their way up in the ranks. They can take the place of a trusted commander within the general's staff and simply set the board for the Imperium to come in and wipe out that heretic army piecemeal. They can screw up the army's logistics to the point where people are starving in the field, tanks are running out of gas. They can even do something so simple as just providing a teleportation beacon. That way Astartes and other specialized elements can teleport right on top of the leaders of the army itself. And just because they're out of their gear does not mean that they're unarmed. A Callidus assassin is so adept at hand-to-hand combat that they can kill most opponents in a single strike. They can do all of that, and they can bend the barrel of a Bradley to give me an aneurysm. Sometimes, though, killing the target isn't the best solution. Maybe the Callidus decides to take the place of the target. Like I said before, the Callidus has a lot of leeway in how to handle a problem. Sometimes overly killing the target would have massively undesirable effects, and the Callidus is trained to notice those effects and negate them. Take the scenario from before. A planetary governor, beloved by his people, is planning to rebel. They're amassing munitions, uniforms, tanks, artillery. Sometimes it's just best for the Callidus to assume the identity of the person they're sent to kill. This would mean, as of right now, there are Callidus assassins that are leading governments. Instead of killing the target and having a rebelling population, suddenly the planet is jubilant because their planetary governor has decided to honor his father by commissioning a new Imperial Guard regiment. He has been planning for this moment for years. Look here, we have a uniform, we have a tank for you to go in. Will you honor my father? Will you honor him? sign right here. The Callidus could stay in that position for decades, if not centuries, marshaling the planet and its people and its resources, with no one being the wiser, getting portraits painted and having parades, kissing babies. And let's not forget, Conrad Kurz is the only Primarch to ever have been killed by a mortal, and that mortal was a Callidus assassin by the name of Imshin. Now, I'm not gonna go too far into it because I plan on exploring the death of Conrad Kurz at a later time, but the truth of the matter is Conrad Kurz knew she was coming and let her in. The Callidus, even though it's one of the most dangerous killers the Imperium produces, is feared not nearly as much for their lethality as they are for what they can actually achieve. The presence of an embedded Callidus doesn't just tip the scales, it throws them off the board entirely. So if you're fighting the Imperium one day and your most trusted commander has simply vanished, and in his place is a woman in a catsuit, and you just found out that your entire army was encircled, if you're running a cult, and your lover is holding a ritual knife above an Imperial priest's chest, and she is the only one that doesn't flinch from the teleportation flash as a group of Terminators shows up in your midst, if you're a Tau and the fire warrior next to you starts chanting in low Gothic, if you're anywhere at any time with anyone that you know, rest assured the Callidus can reach you. As a matter of fact, they're probably already there. They can be anyone. They can be you. But in reality...
Okay, back from vacation. It's time to get on this Callidus grind. Oh, okay. Google Docs.
Babe? Somebody wrote a Callidus script.
I haven't even started on it yet.
Somebody wrote one.
Who?
It's actually pretty deep. Like, I don't know. Hold on a second.
Really, boss? Is that what we doing? Is this what we doing? Really? We're talking about the Callidus already? I had to work as a Jukari. I had to work as an orc. Do you know how hard that was? How hard I had to work to get that fat? Oh my god. And now I gotta be you? The Imperium don't pay me enough for this shit.
What the fuck?